So it's been a while since I did a wrestling podcast. It's been a while because, to be honest with you, wrestling has been god awful, and it ain't even worth talking about because the products are just so shitty. You can't really get through any wrestling program without falling asleep. The storylines are vanilla. The writing is just pathetic. It's just sad. Like, wrestling is sad. I've been watching wrestling since 1990. I'm gonna let that sink in. 1990. So that's 29 years I've been watching wrestling. So for almost 3 decades, wrestling has been a part of my life. And this is the first time, really, over the past couple of years, I can really truly say that I don't feel like I miss anything when I don't watch wrestling. And it's just sad, man, because I never thought that I would be in this position. But I haven't got you here just to talk about, what I feel about wrestling. We all know where it's at. If you are a real true fan and you can actually really just sit back and observe the product, you'll actually see the type of state that wrestling is in. But apparently, Seth Rollins doesn't feel the same way. Seth Rollins was on the Sports Illustrated Media podcast, and he was really going at people on Twitter. He was talking about the fans. He was talking about how the fans sit behind their computers and they talk about the product and they don't understand all the ins and outs of products and of the product. And then all of a sudden, they think that they know everything just because they have the power to talk on social media. And I don't understand this generation. Well, Seth Rollins, I'm one of those individuals. Okay. And the last time I think I heard, or I seen rather, was you, Seth Rollins, and I around the same age. I think you were born in 1986. I was born in 1986. You're 33 years old. I'll be 33 in August. So I'm one of those individuals. So that tells me right there, Seth Rollins, like me and you are, from the same generation. So I have a problem with the product. And I also have a problem with Seth Rollins getting upset that John Moxley went on Talk Is Jericho and talked about everything that a lot of the wrestling fans have been dealing with over the past few years. The storylines don't make any sense. None of the things that they're writing captivates us, and he wants them to change it, which a lot of fans have been saying. And all of a sudden, he gets mad and talk about how John Moxley, he can take his ball and go home, or you can sit back and you can try to change the situation. Look, I understand how Seth Rollins feels. Even though, in my opinion, in his interview, he sounds like a whiny-ass bitch. And I really don't just go at wrestlers like that, but to me, he sounded like a whiny-ass bitch. He went out there and he started talking about fans being dorks and all that kind of stuff, man. Like, Seth Rollins, please, bro. Like, man, don't let the CrossFit and you know what I'm saying, and well-developed body fool you. I know a nerd and a dork when I see one. We seen the home videos, Colby. We seen them, man. We seen you on your mom floor with the fake-ass cardboard belt. That's dork behavior right there. We seen you in the backyard flipping with your friends in the backyard. That's dork behavior. Honestly, man, Seth Rollins is one of those individuals who probably got his ass whooped when he was in school and probably went to wrestling so he can, not get bullied anymore. And that's what most wrestling fans are now. Wrestlers, not wrestling fans, but wrestlers. They're probably guys who were probably picked on and probably were nerds and probably were outcasts. And all of a sudden they kind of just went to wrestling. And the next thing you know, now they feel like they're entitled now. And they feel like they're past the nerd stage. And they feel like they got the right to call other people nerds. Well, I know a nerd when I see one, Colby, and you're definitely one of them. I'm not calling you Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins is a great wrestler. Colby Lopez is a bitch. And that's who was at that interview. It was Colby Lopez. Colby, you can't get mad at wrestling fans being upset with the product, especially wrestling fans that actually have an emotional investment in it. And I understand how you feel because you're champion. You don't want the product to go down on your watch, right? You don't want it to go down because you're the champion, because it's a representation of you. When people are changing the channel and moving on from watching wrestling or watching something else, you're at the top. So if the ratings come back, you're going to feel bad because you're the champion. I mean, we seen this before. I mean, back in the day, let me take y'all back to 2004 with Eddie Guerrero. You remember Eddie, man, no way out. I mean, he beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. And he was the SmackDown champion at the time. And he said, well, people said that Eddie Guerrero used to go to the back after each show and he'll say, what were the ratings? I mean, what did we draw as a house and all that kind of stuff. And when he didn't feel like he got the numbers that he wanted, he would get all depressed. And it got to a point he got so depressed, they decided to take the strap off of him. A lot of people don't know this. JBL wasn't supposed to beat Eddie Guerrero, but management thought it was a good idea because Eddie Guerrero was starting to get anxiety. He was starting to get depressed, all because he felt like, he was the champion and he was the reason why the numbers and the ratings were going down, which we look at it now as like, that's absolutely ridiculous because Eddie Guerrero, in my opinion, is the greatest wrestler that ever lived. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's probably on somebody else's Mount Rushmore, but he's my favorite wrestler of all time. Okay, but that's crazy because Eddie Guerrero was a beast. And I see Seth Rollins, he's a beast in the ring. So for him to be going at fans, it just seems like, he just in his feelings. He getting all emotional. He getting mad at Jon Moxley about leaving and stuff like that. He talking about the man took his ball and went home. And first off, the man didn't take his ball and go home. The man worked out his contractual obligation and he decided not to resign. So that seemed like, to me, that's a man move right there. If he wanted to, he could have did what CM Punk did. If you want to say that, CM Punk took his ball and went home. Sasha Banks took her ball and went home. Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley, he worked out his contractual obligations and he didn't resign. Okay, Seth Rollins, so get that shit straight, Colby. I mean, honestly, I kind of lost respect for Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins was one of my top favorite new wrestlers. But having bitch behavior like this, man, I got to look elsewhere. Because you can't go on here and be trying to bash people, man, just because they don't like what you're doing. You need to try to, you can say you try to change it, but we all know that Vince McMahon ain't changing shit. Because Vince McMahon wants to be in charge, until he 10 toes up, which I don't want to see that anytime soon, but it's just the truth. I mean, you look at some of the things that these wrestlers are saying, and I guess I can look at it now because since the whole Jon Moxley interview, it's like now I'm looking at how wrestlers recite these lines because it's not really them. And it was a line that Baron Corbin said on Monday Night Raw. And I think it was like he was talking about Seth Rollins. He was like, you might as well go home and put an apron on. But if you look at Baron Corbin, it felt like he kind of cringed when he said it. He was like, man, I can't believe I said that shit. Like, go back and look at it. Go back and look at him say that line. It looks like he kind of cringes inside. Like, you got to really pay attention to it. And I guess I saw it because when I was in college, man, my minor was theater. So I kind of know when a person is really, really trying to, recite a line and really getting that full emotion. It seemed like he just kind of cringed when he said that. I'll go back and take a look at it. So I mean, I can't unsee that stuff now. I can't unhear what Jon Moxley said. But I'd like to hear from you, man. What do you think about the whole Seth Rollins interview? What do you think about that? Do you think that Seth Rollins, the wrestler, was wrong for the comments that Colby Lopez, the bitch, said? I mean, comment down below, like, and share this video. This has been TJ Knows Wrestling. Until next time, I'll see you down the road.